Welcome, brave hobbyists, to the Unpainted Horde, the podcast dedicated to celebrating and sometimes lamenting the glorious world of tabletop miniatures. I'm Finn.
And I'm Luna. We're here to wallow in the plastic shame alongside you and talk about some of the biggest and smallest miniatures games out there and all those in between. Each week, we'll be diving into rule sets, miniature ranges, painting tips, and everything else that fuels our plastic crack addictions.
We're going to be cracking open the rulebook for The Doomed, a miniatures skirmish game that's definitely caught our eye. Now, you're obviously a miniatures gamer, and you clearly like the post-apocalyptic stuff, so we're going to take you on a tour of this world. By the end of this deep dive, you'll be ready to grab your minis, assemble your warband, and face down some serious, nightmarish horrors. And joining me to navigate this wasteland is our resident tabletop expert.
I've spent a lot of time dodging mutants in the wastelands of tabletop gaming. I think you're going to love this one.
Okay, so let's unpack this doomed world. It's definitely bleak, but there's this kind of captivating backstory that sets the stage for some really cool gameplay. This advanced force, they're called the Company, they just vanished, and they left behind crumbling cities, weird tech, and a lot of terrifying creatures. I'm getting some serious Fallout vibes, but like with a bit of a gothic horror twist.
What's really cool here is that the lore isn't just like background noise. It really shapes the game's mechanics and how you play. It's not about like conquering land. It's about survival in a world that's constantly trying to destroy you.
Yeah, okay. So where do you fit into all this? What, you command a warband. It's a small group of survivors, usually like 4 to 9 miniatures, led by a powerful leader. And this is where the game's faction system is so cool. You've got 4 main factions to choose from, and they've each got their own style. First up, we've got the inheritor courts. Thing like old nobility trying to hang on to order and tradition and all this chaos. They've got knights, judges, champions, classic heroism kind of stuff.
The inheritor courts are all about discipline and control. Their units are usually very well equipped and well trained. They favor a more defensive style and strategic maneuvering. They're good faction for players who like that methodical approach, like a tabletop chess game almost.
Next, we've got the martyr retinues. And these guys are really interesting. They're obsessed with the Company's lost tech, almost like a religious group devoted to science. I imagine them using a mix of scavenged weapons and some jury-rigged contraptions, like a steampunk vibe.
The martyr retinues are all about knowledge and adaptation. They're great at using their environment and knowing their opponent's weak points. They're a good pick if you like outsmarting your opponent and creative problem solving.
Then there's the reborn covens. And this is where it gets strange. They're all about genetic manipulation and weird rebirth rituals. Their units are often mutated and totally unpredictable. Definitely a wild card on the battlefield.
The Reborn Covens are a blast to play if you like chaos. Their rebirth mechanic lets them bring back dead units, but often with new and strange mutations. It's a gamble, but it could change the entire game.
And last but not least, we have the exile bands. They're the remnants of a fallen advanced civilization. They're masters of unusual weapons and guerrilla tactics, and they're fighting to regain their past glory. I imagine them having sleek armor, energy weapons, maybe even psionic powers.
The exile bands are about speed and aggression. They hit hard and fast. They use flanking maneuvers and hit-and-run tactics to throw off their opponents. They're perfect for players who enjoy a fast-paced, high-risk, high-reward playstyle.
All right, so you've chosen your faction, you've put together your warband, and now you and your opponent are facing each other across the table. What happens next?
All right, so let's dig into how battles actually work in The Doomed. It's all about taking turns, choosing actions, and using what you've got wisely because resources are super limited in this crazy world.
And they are limited. You only have 3 actions per unit each turn. So do you run for cover? Do you shoot? Maybe pull a wounded teammate out of danger? Each choice is important.
Yeah, it's like a tactical chess game, but with way more adrenaline and desperation.
Speaking of chess, one thing that makes The Doomed different is the movement. No measuring, just intuition and knowing where things are on the board.
I've played my share of miniature games, and this is refreshing. It keeps things moving fast and puts the focus on strategy instead of getting hung up on exact measurements.
It's like you're choreographing a dance of death on the table, describing how your units move in this fluid, almost cinematic way.
I like that. Instead of just saying my unit moves 3 inches forward, you're describing the action. Like, my warrior sprints across this open area, dives behind that broken wall, and then peeks out to take a shot at your leader.
Yeah, it's so much more exciting that way. And I like how it encourages both players to work together.
Definitely. It becomes a conversation back and forth where both players add to the story and make sure the movements make sense.
Okay, so my warrior has made this awesome move, got into position, and now it's time to fight. What happens now?
Time to see if luck is on your side. Roll some dice and see what happens.
Let's roll. I'm always ready for a little tabletop drama.
So, combat in The Doomed uses a simple d6 system. You roll a number of dice that's equal to your weapon's attack value, and to hit, you have to roll at least your unit's quality score.
So if a unit has a higher quality score, it means they're more skilled and better at hitting their target.
Right. A veteran warrior will have a higher quality score than someone new, showing their experience and training.
And I remember you mentioned skills. How do they work in combat?
Skills are like special abilities that give your units an advantage in battle. They can let you re-roll failed attacks, add extra dice to your rolls, or even ignore some defenses.
So for instance, if my Exile Band's warrior has the marksman skill, they might get a bonus to their attack rolls when shooting at someone far away.
Exactly. Skills give you more options and tactical depth for your warband. You can make your units specialists and use their strengths.
Cool. Okay, so I've rolled my dice, hit a few times, and now it's my opponent's turn to see what happens. What goes down when a unit gets hit?
Every successful hit does a certain amount of damage, and the target has to roll a save for each point of damage. Their quality score, again, determines how well they can take a hit.
So a tougher unit is more likely to shake off those hits and keep fighting.
Yep, that's the idea. But even the strongest warriors can be unlucky. If a unit fails any of their save rolls, they're wounded. And then we get to roll on the shock table.
The shock table, that's the one with all the bad stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. The shock table is where the story and the game mechanics really come together. It's a 2d6 chart that tells you how bad the injury is. And it could be anything from a small scratch to instant death.
Okay, hit me with an example.
All right. Let's say your Exile Band's warrior takes a couple hits and fails their save rolls. We roll on the shock table and, oh boy, a 12. That's shattered.
Shattered. That doesn't sound good. What happens to my warrior?
Well, let's just say they're out of the fight for good. Could be a huge injury, a mental break, or something even worse. The rules leave it up to you.
That's intense. So it's not just about doing damage, it's about leaving a lasting impact and weakening your opponent's warband.
You got it. Every wound tells a story, and those stories affect how the campaign plays out.
This is where The Doomed feels different as a narrative-driven game. It's not just about winning, it's about those ups and downs, the victories and losses of a group fighting to survive in this crazy world.
And the shock table isn't always terrible. Sometimes it can help you too. Like a roll of 7 is inspired, which gives your unit a temporary boost to their quality score, like a sudden burst of energy or a moment of clarity.
So even when things look bad, there's a chance for your units to become even stronger.
Absolutely. That's how combat works in The Doomed, always changing and keeping you on your toes.
All right, so we've got movement, combat, the shock table, all down. Now, what about those scary horrors? How do they change things up?
The horrors are a whole other challenge. They're not just another enemy on the board. They're like a force of nature, a symbol of the world falling apart. You need a completely different strategy to fight them.
So how do you even start fighting something that seems unbeatable?
First, you got to understand that these horrors are tied to the world through things called nexuses. They're like anchors that keep them in reality, and they're usually well protected.
So to defeat a horror, you have to destroy its nexuses. I'm guessing that's not easy.
You're right. The nexuses are usually in dangerous spots, guarded by the horror's minions and full of weird energy. It's a big tactical puzzle that needs careful planning and a lot of guts.
This sounds like where those scenarios we talked about become really important.
You got it. Each scenario gives you different goals and challenges, and they're usually connected to those nexuses. You might have to sneak into a ruined temple to cut off the horror's link to some powerful object. Or maybe you have to lead survivors through a haunted forest while the horror hunts you.
It all sounds like a wild and desperate fight for survival. It really fits the whole theme of The Doomed.
And that's just the beginning when it comes to horrors. They come in all forms, each with its own unique powers and a creepy backstory that adds to the atmosphere of the game.
Just thinking about facing one of these things on the tabletop gives me chills.
It's an experience you won't forget. Fighting a horror tests your skill, your strategy, and your courage. It's a fight against the forces of chaos, where your warband's fate, and maybe even the world's, hangs in the balance.
So we've covered movement, combat, the shock table, and these terrifying horrors. What else is there to explore in this doomed world?
Now it's time to get into the heart of the Doomed, the campaign system. This is where your warband story really unfolds. Choices have consequences, and you build your legend in this broken world.
That sounds epic. Let's jump into the campaign system.
Get ready, things are about to get interesting.
All right, so we've gone through this messed up world of the Doomed. We've talked about fighting and even how to take on those scary horrors.
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
But now let's get into how your warband story actually develops over time. Tell me about this campaign system.
This is where the Doomed really comes alive. It's more than just winning battles. It's about creating a story, watching your warband grow, and dealing with the choices you make in this tough world.
So it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure, but with dice and miniatures.
Exactly. As you play through these linked scenarios, your warband earns renown. Basically, it's a measure of how well they're doing and how famous they become. This renown gives you more resources, you can get new units, better equipment, even unlock special powers.
So the more you win, the stronger your warband gets. I can see why people would like that, watching their forces grow.
It's satisfying seeing your warband go from a bunch of survivors to a real force to be reckoned with, but it's not just about getting super powerful.
What do you mean?
The Doomed has this casualty system that makes it more realistic. Your warriors aren't invincible. They can be wounded, captured, or even killed off for good.
So every win comes with a price.
Yeah, and that price can change your warband. Losing a veteran warrior is a big deal, not just for your strategy, but also emotionally.
I bet that makes you think carefully about every move, weighing the risks and rewards.
Absolutely. It's not just about winning, it's about surviving. And to survive, you have to make hard choices and deal with losses.
This reminds me of those war movies where you follow a group of soldiers, seeing their friendships, their sacrifices, and their victories.
I see that. The campaign system is all about telling those kinds of stories. Stories of courage, loss, and the human spirit surviving against all odds.
Okay, so we have this renown, resources, casualties. What else shapes the story in the Doomed campaign?
Every leader in the Doomed has ambitions, which are long-term goals that drive them and give them purpose in this broken world.
It's not just about staying alive, it's about doing something important, something that defines your warband's legacy.
You got it. These ambitions could be anything. Wiping out a rival warband, finding a lost artifact from the company, maybe even escaping this whole Doomed world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes each warband feel unique and adds something personal to the campaign.
And the ambitions tie into the end of the campaign in a cool way. The more ambitions your leader achieves, the better you'll do in the final fight. Your past choices and victories directly affect your warband's fate, and maybe even the fate of the world.
Wow, that's really cool. It's like everything that's happened comes together in this big final battle where everything's on the line.
It's a rewarding feeling, seeing how it all pays off after all those battles, losses, and goals you've worked for.
It sounds like the Doomed really gets what makes a campaign great. A captivating story, choices that matter, and a sense of progress that keeps you invested.
We haven't even talked about one of the coolest parts of the campaign, the Doom track.
Doom track, what's that?
The Doom track shows how the world is slowly falling apart, this constant threat of total collapse. It's got 5 tracks, each one representing a different way the world is decaying. Hunger, hatred, domination, oblivion, and ruin.
So it's like a countdown, reminding you that the world's about to end.
Pretty much. As you play, certain things happen that make the Doom track move forward. And as each track progresses, it triggers events that affect your warband and the world.
So it's not just about fighting other warbands and horrors, you also have to deal with this chaos that's destroying the world.
Exactly. Maybe you'll have less food because of a famine, or your warband starts fighting amongst themselves as hatred grows, or a massive earthquake changes the battlefield as ruin spreads.
That's wild. It's like the world itself is playing against you, changing things up and making you adapt.
And the best part is, these world events are usually connected to the story and the themes of the game, which makes the campaign even more immersive.
So it's not just random events. It's a system that adds to the storytelling and makes the world feel unpredictable.
Right. And if any of those Doom tracks reach the end, it triggers a Doom climax. It's a special scenario that decides the outcome of the whole campaign. It could be a last stand against a ton of horrors, a desperate escape from a crumbling city, or even a final battle against another warband that will determine what happens to the world.
So you're racing against time, trying to achieve your goals before the world falls apart.
That's what the Doomed is all about. Fighting against the odds, being resilient, and showing the strength of the human spirit even when facing doom.
Well, after hearing about the story, the rules, and the campaign, I have to say, The Doomed sounds like an amazing game for anyone who likes tabletop games with a strong story and immersive world.
Yeah, it's a game that respects your time, your creativity, and your love for the hobby. It's challenging, it's engaging, and you'll definitely want to keep playing.
And for all you miniature fans out there, remember what the rulebook says. Embrace the kit bash attitude. Don't be afraid to try new things, change the rules, create your own scenarios, and make The Doomed your own. This world is yours to explore, a story waiting to be told. So grab your miniatures, get your friends together, and get ready to face your doom. And maybe, just maybe, find some hope in the wreckage.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Doomed. We hope you're as excited to explore this world as we are. Until next time, happy gaming.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Unpainted Horde. We hope you learned something, and maybe even feel a little bit better about that mountain of unpainted miniatures looming over you.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us spread the word and justify our addiction. Until next time, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor, and may your primer coats be thin.
This podcast was created with significant help from Google Notebook LM.